Alright, we're back here again, boys. Alright, cool. Alright, we're back again. I was supposed to take a break. But apparently, we have issues. Looks like, Jay needs to be retested. So, like, goddamn. Hi, Isaac. What's up? You missed the streams. Glad to have me back. Thanks. Michael says, yo. Yeah, no. I was supposed to be off for the month. And then I'm like, fuck. You know, it's like, Jay needs my help because he landed on, like, right, the borderline, right? Between pass and fail. And so we have one shot to be able to get him a Google offer. One question that'll determine it. And I'm like, holy shit, this is so stressful. Like, whatever my clients go through, I go through, right? And like, he tells me this, and I'm just like, fuck. So, guess I have to cut my break early in order to help him get an offer. You know, at least it's like, at least there's something. You know, at least he has a chance of passing. It's not like an outright failure. But goddamn, that's all I gotta say, man. Ah. Oh, designing the characters of Cowboy Bebop. This is fucking cool. Yeah, did you know the designer of Lugia from Pokemon was like an alcoholic? Shit, man, that's like actually kind of depressing when you hear about like how he like his creative freedom was basically taken and then commercialized, and he was like, and it's just like in the completely opposite direction of what he intended for it. Okay, so at times I don't feel like dealing with details. It'll be worth it. I hope so. Like, okay, let me explain to you like this, right? Whenever you do something like this, whenever you like, let's say like you are trying to predict or uh, try to go for an event, right? There's always some probability that you succeed, and there's some probability you fail. Like, and there's like, let's say for instance, I want to go to SF today, right? There is a 70% chance that I make it within 40 minutes. There's a 30% chance I don't make it within 40 minutes. You know, it's like a range of things. Um, and so what you can do is all like with practice like this, and if you do things correctly, you stack the odds in your favor, right? And so because of that, it's like you have good study habits, good approaches, seeing the right questions, doing enough practice ahead of time. All these things increase your what's it called your odds, right? And so the reason why I can hit 70% on any given interview is because of that, right? The problem is that within each interview, there's like five interview questions, right? So let's do some back of the envelope math. Let's bring up Google Docs for a second. So like for interviews, 70% chance of any interview passing, right? And they have five questions, which means that in order for you to not pass, you have to basically get killed. Let's say the standard is like 2 out of 5 questions equal fail. Don't do well on equals fail, right? So you have a 70% chance of that. So 5 questions, pick two. 5 choose 2, right? Choose 2 divided by all possible outcomes. God, where the fuck? let me see if I remember how to do the combinatorics on this. But basically, it works out to be like each individual question is like you have 50-50 chance of like doing really well or not. And then all you need to do is like pick two of them and then you die on that. So it's like something along those lines. So in other words, we've actually reduced the odds from 70% chance of passing to much lower. That's basically what I'm trying to say here. Let me see if I remember the combinatorics for this. God damn it. So like 5, choose 2 questions you fail on, and then the rest you pass. And then each question has like 50% has X% chance of passing. Find X. By passing any question, find X. So if I yeah, I don't know. I need to remember. I'll do the math on this later. But you get the idea. It's basically that, in theory, if for an interview, you have 5 shots, you have 5 chances at the question. You have 5 chances, essentially. And now we've reduced it to 1 chance. Which means that it's now this X%. So, fuck. I guess, I mean, it's been pretty interesting, the break, actually. I was only gone for like a week and a half. Or something like that, and most of the time I've just spent reading. That's pretty much it. Okay, so he says he's gonna be 5 to 10 minutes late. No problem. We'll just hang out for a while. So if anyone has any questions or anything, just put in the chat and I'll answer them. Okay, Cowboy Bebop started production at the thinnest sketch ideas. However, the producer fleshed out the project by designing the 3 main characters. The first step towards a rough outline towards a real show. At the time, the production of was episode 1. So we had action in space. Director had some rough direction. So the characters, early meetings weren't conclusive. General idea, the character should feel hard-boiled. He didn't have much material. They spent years working on Gundam. Have a strong sense of presence, eye-catching. Began to sketch. Getting input from everybody's. Spike was basically there for the initial drawings. Combination of Space Lupin and City Hunter. Okay, Spike's pretty recognizable, actually. Jet's close to the face, still a little weird. Maybe early to mustaches. Ain's favorite eventual model was a corgi named Billy, owned by one of Haramoto's friends. Ed was a boy at the final planning stage. Ah, yeah, the corgi. But you still have your actual job to do, right? So it's not even a full break in that sense. Yeah, I still have my full-time job. This is literally just a break from coaching. That was really it. Alright, let's see. Good books on software architecture other than clean architecture. So the way you want to think about software architecture as you get more and more advanced. So clean architecture is one of them. You have all these different dependencies and modules that you're trying to manage. But after some point, you need to actually understand like the build system of what's going on, right? So let me actually, let's see, Bazel. So the next thing I would recommend you do after that, after you understand architecture, actually get familiar with Bazel's documentation. Actually read the source code for Bazel. It is very good because now you get to see like how these things are actually put together, and because of how complex Bazel is and what it tries to do, you can actually get a lot of real world examples for like Bazel patterns and separation of concerns. You actually get a really good understanding and real life example of that. So let me actually give you an example since I actually work on this too. So let's say I want to go to like a resource manager or something like that. If Bazel's like gonna be able to run tests and stuff, right? Let's say like it tries to calculate how to spin up jobs, how many tasks to run in parallel. Well, you have these local spawn runners, which are basically strategy. It's just a strategy pattern for whether or not you want to run it locally or remotely. So this code base gives you a really good example, but I'm also confident, and I believe that whatever you read is just going to go away unless you apply it somehow. So unless you're really working on build systems themselves, this knowledge is not going to be really, it's not going to be that applicable to you, but you should actually understand and know what the hell is going on. After that, it's really just about probabilistic thinking. So a lot of books like by Zach Hauser is going to be good actually. So if I Zach Hauser. So let me show you who this guy is. This guy is basically got a professor at what's it called at Harvard of public policy, but he's a champion bridge player. But if you look at the books he writes about, it's like there's a lot of them about strategy and try to think under probabilistic circumstances. So for instance, investing in the unknown and unknowable. If you really think about what's it called coding and engineering, it's really putting time up front to save time later. It's perfect. It's a perfect proxy for investing. Strategy and choice. How you decide which direction to go. Do you go with fix A or fix B? You know, a lot of your high level shit is going to be dealing with that actually. And so being able to make decisions under uncertainty is going to be a very, very useful skill. I think once you reach a certain point in engineering, there's not a whole lot of engineering books that you can read that'll advance your skill. After that, it's all about decision making and making sure that you can make the correct decisions with imperfect information. Because a lot of the code base you're going to be working on, no one knows like every single line or how each module is structured. It changes day to day, right? And so like actually even like here's one book I'm reading, Judgment in Managerial Decision Making. So this is like basically an extended version of Charlie Munger's speech, like the 24 causes of human misjudgment, except applied in a business context. I think this is actually a pretty decent synopsis book. I'm just trying to get through it. But honestly, if you've read Charlie Munger's 24 Causes of Human Misjudgment or even Poor Charlie's Almanac, you've already read this book pretty much. So, did I take a vacation as well? No. I did not take a vacation overall. I only took a break from coaching, not from my real job. What if the interviewer doesn't seem too interested or negative vibes? You pissed off the interviewer, basically. And at that point, there's really nothing much that you can do. The reason why is because if someone has a negative impression on you, it's so difficult to change it within 45 minutes. Let's say you piss someone off, and are you gonna spend those 45 minutes just trying to complete the interview, or are you gonna spend those 45 minutes trying to win him over? Nah, just complete the interview, complete the problem, and then hopefully you give him a reason to not be mad at you by that. It's like if the interviewer doesn't like you, you probably are full of shit at some point. He probably picked up that you're full of shit at some point, right? Maybe you're doing things illogically. Maybe you're spitballing answers or something. I don't know. If you're being illogical, that's the best way to piss someone off. And let's say you went there, then the next best thing to do isn't to like try and work around that. The next best thing to do is to work efficiently through the problem and prove that your thoughts and the way you think about the problem is going to get you the right answer. And that if you can do that, then you basically save the interview right there. And the interviewer will just be like, oh God, I'm so mad at him, but he solved the problem, so whatever. If you can get to that, but he solved the problem very efficiently and very well, he has no reason to use that emotion. Because during these, like, when we go and debrief, we usually ask the candidates and the person, we ask the interviewers why they felt the way they did or why they gave the judgment. So in other words, if the interviewer comes up and says, hey, yeah, I was super pissed off at him and had negative impressions about him, but he solved the problem logically, clearly, and optimally, you see where they can no longer justify their bad emotion? There you go. So basically, the point is just to fucking solve the problem and show him that he's fucking wrong about you. Any tips on understanding new large code bases, to visualizing, debugging KTS? One chunk at a time. Pick one area that is easy to understand, and then just go from there. So in other words, if I go to like the Bazel example, right? I think the place I started from was looking at like memory management, like how do you, or like Spawn Runner. I was like basically looking through the documentation and trying to map it to what was going on here. So I just threw random debug points at like say this Spawn Runner, right? This or remote Spawn Runner. I think no, it's this one, local Spawn Runner. Yeah. So I was like, I just threw debug points like how this is constructed, and I was basically looking for a specific problem, right? Let me shift this over. I was looking at a very specific problem where we were crashing, and I'm working on a video for this, right? But we were crashing when building, and so I was like stepping through every single, with the debugger, just stepping through every single line and just like reading, okay, what the heck are the values here? Why are these values the way they are? And eventually you just do this like enough times, you'll basically understand it within like a week. That's basically my best suggestion. Start with a real problem, and then look through it actually, and then step through how the actual code works. It's so much better and than any of the documentation, because the documentation just basically gives you what was true 3 months ago. Second, it might not even be complete either. There might be like hidden options in the code base that it's not documenting it either. So this is, so you see here, like if I'm gonna go and build, like run a build, right? This is like parse the request and run it locally. This is probably where I would start. Look for all the local actions, da da da, and then I'll set the input files, start the time, virtual spawn list of input files, and then it's like running the action locally, and then you'll see like, oh, this is like the sub process builder that we're going to spin up, and then it's going to actually go ahead, copy the arguments for that action, and then it'll actually run that sub process, and then after that it'll pop back out and then say that if there's an error there or if it succeeded. So it's pretty straightforward. And so you would assume that this would be the entry point for a lot of these commands that Bazel spins up, whether it's a Java compile command or a Kotlin compile command. You put a breakpoint here, you're going to catch everything. And that's where you start. You just step through everything, step in when you need to try and track down a problem, and then step out. And usually the way that we onboard people is we'll give them like what we call starter projects. Essentially, projects with enough scope that they have to work through the entire code base in order to solve it, but not so much that it's like overly complex. Usually it's like a small bug or like a small feature that is self-contained and doesn't require coordination with a lot of other people. Once you do that one project, you should be pretty familiar with that area. Then everything after that is just the repeat of that exercise for more and more complex projects or more details. It seems hiring is slowing down for below L4. Do you think it's possible to get offers in Q4 this year? Yeah, we already. I can tell you that we've already extended an offer to an L4 candidate. The problem is that we are a little bit more strict on who we want. The general heuristic, if it's not a clear yes, then it's a no. That is, you want to make it a clear yes, and you know that's the same thing that, you know, that's the attitude you should have had even when times were good. That's the thing. Like, I don't understand why people think that the slowdown in hiring changes anything. It changes, like, the probability of getting an offer, yes. But it doesn't change your approach to the actual coding interview. You should still be trying to hit every single offer, right? So the fact that companies are more strict shouldn't change the fact that you should be trying to solve every single problem logically, cleanly, and well. Like just the other month, right? M got an offer from Microsoft in the midst of hiring slowdowns at an L3, you know, and he got the upper 25% offer. Like his total comp was like $170,000, when the average is like 150 or 140 for an L3 new grad. I don't know. I'm showing it's possible to get like offers during hiring slowdowns. So that's all I gotta say on that. Is like, you shouldn't be changing anything despite hiring slowdown. It just means that you have less probability of getting an offer, and you just need to be that much more strict on yourself. It's not fucking complicated. I don't know why people think trying to game the system is efficient at all. It's not. It's really not. You don't want just one offer. You want offers from every single company you apply for. And you didn't even negotiate. Yeah, exactly. Like, I'll tell you, my weak point is negotiations. I don't negotiate unless I have actual offers on the table, because that will give me a better solution. And in fact, like, if you really think about it, he's a new grad. You take what you can get, right? And he didn't even negotiate, and he still got an upper 25% offer, right? Like, let's go to levels.fyi for a hot second. Let's filter to new grad, right? Filter by user experience. 0 years of experience. Let's say the past year, right? And then let's put it in like Seattle, since that's basically where he was. And then let's arrange it by comp. All right, so you have 100 offers. Which page is he going to be on? Oh, look at that. Yeah, probably like third page. So yeah, top 25, 30% off offers ever given like in the past month. Look at that. Yeah, rows 21 to 30. He's probably sitting around here, which is like around 25, 28. You know? I think it's a little higher, actually, if I remember right. It could have been 168 to 171, somewhere around here. But yeah, look. If you can get like a top 30, 25, 30% offer during a hiring slowdown, so, and nothing changed when we did the approach, right? I just like basically did exactly the same thing. I just drilled into his fucking head of what he needed to do, which was everything outlined in my doc, and he got a top 30% offer during hiring slowdowns. The fuck you want, boys and girls? Like, what more do I need to say? The results speak for themselves. All right, let's bring him on. Oh, hello?
Oh, hello.
All right, so.
Hello.
All right, yeah. So did you practice in the past 2 days since we, like, chatted about, stuff?
Yes. So, for practice-wise, I did feel very rusty in the beginning. So I couldn't come up with, like, some pseudocode. I could come up with, like, a brute force, but I couldn't iterate upon it too much, and the brute force was a bit too unwieldy for me to implement. But now, but as I've gotten more questions done, I feel like I'm a bit more comfortable now, like, in getting from the idea to the code and some optimizations after that. But I've only been doing some DP problems since then. So that might influence how easy it is to do the brute force, I guess.
Wait. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I had to close the door. All right, so you did DP problems. You feel more comfortable now.
Yeah, going from brute force to brute force idea to code, and then some optimizations on top of that. But I've only been doing some DP problems since then. So
okay.
And it was from EPI, so that might influence it a little bit since they're a little bit more well defined in EPI.
All right. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing like totally DP problems at this point. It's the what you want to hit is your explanation. Remember what we said before. You need to be simple, direct, and clean with your explanation and how you scope out the problem. That's basically what you need to work on.
Yeah, I feel like when explaining my problems, like my idea, essentially I go through like 2 or 3 iterations, and then I finally get a way to say it cleanly.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I remember yesterday when I was doing essentially like subset sum question where you have in a list and you have to find a certain sum within that list using picking any amount of numbers in that list. And it took me like a couple tries to try and get that question across, like explain it to other people. But it took me like 2 or 3 iterations to finally settle on like an explanation that sounded acceptable to me.
Okay. So in other words, so once you do that, let's explore that a little bit, because that's definitely something that you had issues with when you were doing your technical rounds. The question now becomes, how do I get there? How do I get that first explanation faster?
Yeah.
So what did you think about that?
Okay, I think when I was explaining it, I didn't think through of all the possible variables I should be including in my question. I had to have the other person dig it out of me a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what about this situation? I'm like, oh, okay, I forgot to mention this criteria that handle this situation, sort of thing.
Okay, anything else?
Other than that, it was essentially just that, just going, missing some criteria that would clear up some questions, and then after all the criteria has been handled, then I can summarize it into a acceptable sentence, at least.
Okay. So the way I do things, it's like I always start with the high level 10-second summary.
Yeah.
So, wait, do you have your checklist, by the way?
I haven't made a concrete one just yet. I've just essentially just been going off of your choosing a solution one.
Okay. But yeah, there's a whole lot more to it. Everyone's checklist is going to be different because everyone thinks differently.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have mine, but I don't. It's gonna be different than what yours is gonna be. There's gonna be factors I think about that you don't, and vice versa. But basically, what I start with is the 10-second summary.
Okay, yeah.
So
10-second
that,
summary first. Yeah.
because that will give me the scope of the question. And then after that, I will go into the how to solve it, and then corner cases. And the how to solve it can contain the logical progression, which is the naive to optimal solution. I'll say, hey, this is the super naive way of solving this, and then we have because of XYZ inefficiencies, we need to address these, and then it becomes the optimal solution. And then after that are the corner cases of the solution as well. It's a relatively simple summary, but the high level 10-second summary is the make or break for a lot of these things. It's get me the idea of the problem, what am I looking at, and then after that, it's just going to be a evolution from there on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So essentially, what you're saying is, okay, let's get the parameters of the question. Let's get out the general solution, and then address the edge cases after that, and then improve upon the inefficiencies of our solution so far.
Pretty much. It's just explaining exactly what our approach is, really. And it's not different from anything that we've been doing before. If you look at it, it's literally just logical progression, naive to optimal solution, no magic bullets, showing how one piece of information leads us to this, XYZ. It's like if I'm building a house, I'm gonna first section off the land that I'm gonna build it on. And then I'll describe the house that is gonna be there.
Yeah. I think I remember in my interview, at least, for one of the questions, the longest arithmetic subsequence, I remember when the guy asked for an optimization, I forgot to consider a certain criteria for the question. I forgot to consider it's a subsequence. So then I was like, okay, if we don't consider this to get us the longest arithmetic subsequence, just the longest arithmetic sequence, that is the numbers, such that the numbers are inside the list. I answered that question instead. So I feel, what I'm basically asking, is it okay to ignore some criteria for an optimization just to get an idea, or should I still stick with the criteria of the question? I guess.
I have no idea what you just asked at the end.
Yeah. I know.
Apply what I just did, what we talked about, the 10-second summary. Just think about what you really want to say and then say it.
Okay.
Make it a habit. If at any point in your everyday life you feel that you're doing this shit, just make it a habit to fix it.
Yeah, just say it again, but a bit more clearly.
Yeah, if you catch yourself, just shut the fuck up and say, hey, yeah, let me rephrase.
Yeah. Okay, is it okay to ignore some criteria of the question in hopes of finding an optimization for that question, but using that? No, okay. Is it okay to ignore some criteria to get an idea for an optimization of your current solution?
Okay, well, if you think of it that way, then it doesn't make sense, right? Why would I optimize on a solution that would ignore parameters of the problem?
Yeah. That's true, yeah. I was just thinking, if get an idea for an optimization and then maybe see if I can apply it to my current one.
I mean...
But then it goes a little off track, I guess.
Yeah, it's like if I say, hey, you can't use linked lists, and you say the optimal solution uses linked lists. How does that make sense?
That's true, yeah.
So in other words, all it is just take what you got and then grow it, step by step. So in the beginning, you should have considered a lot of the corner cases. I mean, for some naive solutions, it's oh yeah, well, we just want to get an answer out on paper. We don't care too much about the details, right? And so in those cases, sometimes it's okay to ignore the corner cases, especially if they're super obviously solved, and we don't care that much. For instance, let's say we went and did the lowest common ancestor problem, right?
Yeah.
And in my naive solution, I said, okay, let's take the path to each one of the children, and then look at all the nodes that are shared between the two paths, and the last node that is shared will be the answer. I don't necessarily need to consider null cases in this, even though it's pretty clear that it's very obviously going to be solved by that solution. Mm-hmm. The reason why is because we're trying to save ourselves a little bit of time, and we know that the solution that we presented is not going to be super optimal. But we are pretty, I would say 80-90% certain that it will solve the problem, even in those weird corner cases. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So like a heuristic sort of
Yes.
thing.
You have it's like you're 90% certain that these weird cases are going to be solved by your naive solution. That's fine. That means that you don't have to necessarily test it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not certain if your naive solution actually does cover everything, yeah, we're gonna want to test it. This is where the instinct kicks in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So, anyway, so with that, let's anything else that I should be aware of that you are or aren't doing that you're more susceptible to, etc.
I guess when sometimes if I'm lost, I kind of fumble around trying out different solutions until I come up with a pattern that I can figure out. But then it becomes a really bad pattern because it's sort of panicky, I guess. No, I mean, I don't think that's too major. So recently.
All right. Do you have your practice diary?
Yeah, I do have my practice. I was using the same one.
Okay.
Oh, I do have some questions. Yeah, I mean, other than me being a little bit confused on when would we use cumulative sums or like prefix sum, suffix sum,
That's
stuff
way
like
too-
that.
that-
Like,
you're
I'm still a
gonna
little
do that
confused on
exercise.
when I would do stuff like that.
You're gonna need to do that exercise yourself.
Yeah.
When do we use that? Well, do you remember in the part of the guide where I said, "Hey, yeah, just try to misuse those patterns and see what happens."
Oh yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, and then like backtest your preconditions.
Yeah.
Etc. Yeah.
Exactly. When can you confuse this and not? All right. So I see like your practice diary looks a little sparse.
Oh,
Oh wait. Sorry, I'm on the wrong tab. My bad.
yeah. Okay. Essentially, it's just 2, 3, 7 is where I picked off since we last talked. Not last talked, but yeah, since last talked.
Okay. All right. Let's see what your notes are for the delta. Originally thought dicers, but didn't know how to implement it properly when brute force. Okay. So network delay time. I think that's basically the question that you're looking at.
Yeah, that's
Hang on. Let me. Okay. And then this one here says the brute force solution was too unwieldy, so no thought of implementation.
Which one now? 238.
I'm on 238.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, let me see here. The brute force solution was so unwieldy, no thought of implementation. This led to a bad solution of the brute force, made it harder to optimize to get a better solution. To get a solution faster, yeah, we should think about more patterns than just the initial pattern. Thought of k-root x curses before abandoning the initial pattern. Build upon the previous idea if it works rather than abandoning and try to start from scratch. Seems a bit difficult. Okay, so you ask me about this. All right.
Oh yeah. I mean, other than that, like, cause this specific one, it was just is one when I first doing questions, I quite didn't understand it too well. It was essentially, okay, how do we get to this solution initially? Like the proper solution, because my first proper solution was, okay, let's just remove all occurrence of x's and see if the strings are the same. Mm-hmm. And then once I saw that it worked for some cases, but it didn't work for some other cases, I was like, okay, let's start an entirely new idea. But then, and then I started digging around for other ideas, but then I was like, I couldn't come up with anything better, assuming the same preconditions I had. And then I came back to the remove all x's idea, and then I started iterating upon that, like, okay, let's see what's wrong, and then that just ended up wasting a bit of time with me.
Yeah, you rambled a little bit there, but I got the idea. So let me read the problem. In a string composed of LRXs, like x, a move consists of either replacing one occurrence of XL with LX, okay? Or replacing one occurrence of RX with XR because you're swapping them, okay. Given the starting string, start, and the ending string, end, return true if and only if there exists a sequence of moves to transform one string to another. Okay. So in other words, you would want to be able to transform a series of swaps. Can it get you to that solution? That's basically what it's asking. Is there a series of swaps such that we can get that solution? All right. So what is the naive solution? Let's talk about the naive solution. There should be a very obvious one right off the bat.
Mine was just actually just generate all possible moves,
Hmm.
like all possible swaps, essentially. Like
Sure.
swap the first one, then maybe swap the second one, or don't swap the second one, etc.
Yeah, that's basically it. Try generating every single possible swap and combination, and then be able to, um, be able to do that, right? And just say,
Yeah.
hey, yeah, this is the these are all the possible combinations we get, and then we just need to find one of the paths, and then do a DFS. That's a very naive. That's a very naive solution, right?
Yeah.
What's the inefficiency?
I mean, the inefficient was I think was okay. I don't need to generate every single swap.
Uh huh.
I can just see if when I do a swap, if the existing string is still the same. If the current character, if the characters
All right, take
in
10.
the
Shut the fuck up for 10 seconds, and
yeah
then try to really think about what you want to say. See, those are the moments that you need to catch yourself, and then just just shut the fuck up for a few seconds.
yeah um okay, if the resulting string from the swap in the initial string that we did is the same as the target is the same position as the target string. So for example, if we swap L and X to XL at the beginning of the string, we should check if our target string is also XL.
Okay, you mean like if there is a prefix in the target string that we are currently
Yeah,
at already?
but yeah, essentially prefix, but is at every position possible. Not
Okay.
every pair possible, every swap position possible.
Doesn't quite make sense, but
Okay.
whatever. I mean, that's probably a detail and not a matter, but I would definitely try to explain things better. Like I don't
Yeah.
I kind of have an idea of what you're saying, but it's not really it doesn't really translate. So anyway, so let's see how I would say the solution to me is not 100% clear, but I'm gonna say we probably could. It's probably mostly gonna resolve around pruning, finding heuristics, and then just say, hey, yeah, this is like how we're gonna do it. So the first thing would be let's try to generate, like you said, the prefix. Can we generate the prefix? If we can, great, boom, and then we will try and generate the next letters, and the next letters, and the next letters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the general gist of it, of what I would how I would do it.
Okay. Yeah.
Just like as a substring problem. Can I generate the first two letters? If I can, then I can generate the next two and next or whatever it is. I think that's basically what the solution would boil down to, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. That's essentially it. Yeah.
So in other words, I didn't abandon the idea at all. It's like sometimes you do need to if it's fundamentally broken, or if you cannot make any more, what's called changes to it. It's like if you made every single possible change to it and you can't get there, then maybe it's time. But I would say that's usually like 15 to 10% of problems that you're gonna do that on. So it's almost like you're more likely than not, you're most likely not thinking about something if you get that point. But yeah, you see how all I did there is like, okay, it's not very clear how to do this. There's no fancy pattern I can throw at it that would solve this pattern. So the next best thing would be to just try and build this up as a substring problem, and then just try to build on top of it.
Yeah. I think the prefix one is a lot cleaner than the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, the point I don't really want you to focus too much on LeetCode. I want you to really focus on being able to clarify these steps. Like being able to talk through what the hell, like what I just did right there.
Yeah, like the objective, and then
yeah, the I said the very obvious solution, and I said, okay, I worked through. Oh, I don't think there's a pattern here. I don't think there's an XYZ here. So the only thing left is for us to build this up, and then just like see if the prefixes and work, et cetera, et cetera. You see basically how I just basically went from like this big universe of all possible solutions, and then just scoped it down to like, oh yeah, this is exactly what we need to do.
Yeah. You went from definitely the narrowing down.
Yeah, so you need to be able to do exactly the same thing.
Okay.
Hard part was so you kind of screwed up. So it looks like because it looks like you're kind of screwing up on these optimizations.
Yeah, I am.
I'm looking at 242 right now.
Okay, 242. Yeah, that was.
All right, what's
I
the
didn't know how to optimize it. How to reuse old work to optimize it too much.
Okay, given a string and
'Cause-
array of words, return the number of words that is a subsequence of s. A subsequence of a string is a new string that could generate from the original string with some characters deleted without changing the relative order of the remaining characters. Okay, without changing the order of the relative characters. Okay, given an s and an array of strings, return the number of words that is a subsequence of s. Okay. All right. So that means that was so. Go ahead. Explain the problem to me as if I'm the interviewer.
Okay. So essentially, the problem is we have a list of words. We need to find if every word in our list can be a subsequence of our string.
You just
So
restated the
that's
problem
the
to me,
question.
okay?
Hmm?
You just restated the problem to me,
Yeah.
okay?
Um.
So how
I
did you
mean that.
resolve it?
Explaining. I mean that's how I explain it. I don't know. Essentially, just
No, I mean like present the solution to me. Like
Oh, the
walk through it,
solution.
as
Okay.
if I'm
Okay.
the
Okay.
interviewer. Like
Uh.
pretend I gave you this problem as a interviewer. How would you solve it?
Okay. So that's the question. My first thought is to just go through each word and then check if it is a subsequence of our string.
Okay. And how would you do? So what's the next logical question from that?
So how would we get if it is? How do we check if two strings are a subsequence of one string is a subsequence of another?
Yep. There you go.
So how we would do that is essentially we just iterate through the lengths of both of the strings, and whenever the smaller string, the let's name the string we want to.
Shut the fuck up and do it again.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, Okay. So let's name our string that we want to check if it
No,
is a
no, no,
subsequence.
no. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
Start over. How would you determine if one string is a subsequence of another? You can do this in
Yeah.
You can do this in 15 seconds.
Yeah. Essentially, okay, we just check if the first. We check if the first.
No, I'm gonna time.
letters...
I'm gonna time you. Don't say anything until you've figured it. Until you've actually know what you want to say.
Okay.
Think about what the main points are, what you want to address, and where and how you're gonna do it.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so we iterate through both strings. We check if the characters are equal at the indices of our iteration. And if the characters are equal, we increment the character we want the subsequence to be. We increment the index of.
Yeah, it's 15 seconds already.
Yeah, okay.
All right, just for the sake of time, I'll tell you how I do it. Let me start with the
Okay,
timer.
yeah.
All right, go. We're gonna see if two strings are subsequents of each other by iterating through both the strings. If the characters don't match, then we're going to iterate over the source string or the big string. If we run out of bounds on the big string, then they do not match. 15 seconds.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah, I was too confused on how would I say the candidate in the source.
I call the big string little string.
Yeah, the big string, little string. I was just like thinking about. I guess the general rule would be okay. It's just that I was thinking about the test case. Like, okay, what happens if
remember, I'm just asking for the general idea. There's plenty of ways to test it, right? It's just give me something that works first. I don't care after that. After that, we can iron out the tiny details. But you're getting hung up on these tiny ass details. The thing I just described was basically. I'm on your prep doc, by the way. The thing I described was like, let's say this is like, let's say long word short, substring, right? And pretend like for just humor me for this, right?
Okay.
Literally, what I just described is look at these two pointers, right? If they're like the same, I advance both of them. If they're not the same, then I advance the source or the log string.
Yeah.
And if eventually I should be able to hit every single letter that's in the short that is in the long, and if I don't, like this letter H, I will run out of bounds.
Yeah.
See how easily I just did that?
Yeah. I guess when I'm explaining, would it be useful to do an example while I'm talking, or maybe after I explain it?
I mean,
then
we've talked about this before. The example should help enhance it, but
Yeah.
you shouldn't be over reliant on it. I mean, I was able to explain it within 15 seconds. And if the interviewer in case got lost, I could do this one in 15 seconds. It's about being efficient at each one of those steps.
Mm-hmm.
So doing an example, if you feel like your explanation was insufficient, is great.
Yeah.
But notice like how long I just did that. Again, every single thing I'm saying, every single thing I'm doing is very efficient, and that's your problem. This is what we're trying to get you to do.
Yeah, to be efficient. Yeah.
Like every single word that comes out of your fucking mouth needs to mean something. If at any point I can just tune you out, come back, and 10 minutes later you're in the exact same spot, that means you're full of shit.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Don't be full of shit.
Yeah.
If I need to pay attention to every single thing you're saying, that means you're probably doing something right.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, anyway, keep going. So now that you've explained the subsequence problem, you've explained how to do the naive solution, keep going. How would you get to optimal?
Okay, so after they get to optimal, we see that each word in our list is being processed separately. So what happens if we start processing them all at the same time for our subsequences?
Okay.
So by this processing them at the same time, I mean we group the words. We group the words in our word list by their first character. So, for example, if we have a list of A, B, C, and B, and B, C, we would group them by A is the first character. It would be A, B, C.
All right.
A,
Well, okay.
ABC.
Quick pause. What do you think the next logical question is? If I'm the interviewer, what do you think I'm going to ask?
How'd you come up with it?
No. How does this solve our problem?
Okay. This solves our problem because instead of processing each word separately, we process them all at the same time, so that improves the running time.
Okay. So So now that you said that, what do you think the interviewer is going to say?
Go explain it a little bit. Explain the solution, the optimization.
No. There's only a few things the interviewer can ask: clarification, alternatives, or progression. Which one do you think he's going to ask?
Clarification.
I mean, you are in the middle of clarifying, so in order for him to ask
okay.
something clarifying, you have to basically have screwed up on explaining something.
The progression then.
Is he? So I'm going to interrupt you to say to keep going.
Yeah. The alternatives, but.
What? Yeah. So the alternative. What do you think the alternative here is?
Alternative instead of processing them at the same time is
No. Like very specifically, this when you've grouped them by first letter.
Can I group them by another letter?
Why don't I just have an array? Why don't I have just an array of pointers? Or array of indexes that I'm looking at? Why do I need to group them?
If you have an array of pointers.
So if I have A, B, B, C, D, right, and I'd start everything at index 0, 0, 0, 0, right? And then I have like word here, right? I look at this one, and then for all the characters at, all these words at index that I've had here, if they're the same, increment it.
Okay.
Why don't I just do that? Why do I need to group them?
I guess because grouping makes it, visualization-wise, it's a little easier to represent.
Really? I mean, I just showed you this. I mean, I could, let's say this is W, X, Y, Z. Do you still understand it?
Yeah, I still understand it. I guess it's because more like, I didn't think of that was solution.
But you saw it right there. All I did was, I don't even know what the answer to this problem is. All I was doing was playing devil's advocate. Like, why are we, this seems really strange, right? Having to go through every single word in the array and group them. That seems terribly inefficient right there. And all I asked was, why are you doing this instead of something like this? It seems so much simpler.
Yeah.
This is what I mean by being able to anticipate the interviewer. You need to also be aware not only of what you're saying, but aware of how other people are going to react to what you're saying.
Yeah, and then if I anticipate those, I can answer it a little bit easier.
If you're doing the interview right, you should be one step ahead of the interviewer. Or in better yet, it's like the moment you said, "Hey, I'm going to group this all by the first letter." That once you said that, you could have stopped yourself and said, "Hey, wait a minute. Why do we need to group them by the first letter?" That would basically mean I am sorting a array, which would get me to n log n time. You could have easily come up with the exact same conclusion that I did, just a little bit slower, but you would have done it logically, which the interviewer can forgive.
Okay, yeah.
Like, even right now, you should have immediately realized, fuck, that is inefficient. Because it's n log n
Yeah.
time. So the
Sorta,
fact that
yeah,
you double down on it is kind of a shit sign.
I mean, I to implement this, I wouldn't really be sorting. It would just be like, oh, man, because I still have to iterate over the entire array still.
Well, it's n log n because it's sorting.
I'm using a dictionary or a hash map for the key value pairing.
Okay, so order n, and so you're gonna be able to, okay. But then, again, how does that get you closer to the problem?
Because initially when I said it was process them at the same time, so if we see A over here, and then we iterate, once we generate our dictionary, we iterate through our subsequent string again.
Okay.
So if we
And then
see
you're gonna create another map?
Huh?
And then, okay, so let's say you got to the A, now what?
Okay, so we got to the A. Now we remove the first letter of every string we have, and if the string is now empty, like, so we remove A. If A is like the only character left in the string, then that's we increment our result by 1.
Okay.
You know, because of A.
Okay.
And then we remove A over here. That becomes BC.
Okay, now I'm at X. Now, how does this, now what am I doing now?
Yeah. And then since it's BC, we do have to do this again.
But the thing is that, notice that you're taking that and then you are having to rehash it. So you have order n, and then after that you're doing for each like let's say this is like X characters, right? Or let's say Q characters.
Yeah.
Q characters, you're basically doing order n operations, right? Because you have to rehash each time.
Yeah, we have to hash it again. Yeah.
So that's the problem. I mean, your solution is like it does work, and eventually you don't. The sum of, like, you know, Q and then, like, let's say QA plus QB plus da da da, where A plus B plus da 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 equals to n. I mean, technically that's what's happening. So, but you still arrive at Qn. So.
Yeah. Okay. So the solution, yeah. So.
In other words, you lost
I guess
time
that should be a little bit.
You lost time at the hashing and creating the new auxiliary data structure.
I'll say it again.
You lost time at creating the new auxiliary data structure and running the hash over and over again.
Okay, yeah. So I should stop myself as soon as I'm explaining the hash. Maybe go for, okay, let's just keep track of the first.
Actually, wait, no, it's not even
first
QN.
word letter matches.
It's Qn plus Q subset of n plus Q subset of n of that minus y. So then actually it just ends up becoming Qn squared. I mean n to the whatever long, you know. It's some polynomial time. Actually,
yeah.
That's what ends up happening. So either way, you basically got fucked. You're fucked. So your polynomial time is actually going to kill you. So either way, the point, no, all roads lead to Rome in this situation. You didn't have. You could have stopped yourself. You could have realized if you actually just did the runtime of what you were doing. If you realized that, hey, I'm inefficient by running the hash map over and over again, you would have immediately gotten there. But okay, so then let's say, like, you got over that and you realize that's inefficient. What's the next step?
Then I would just go for your solution then, I guess.
Possibly. There's a even more cleaner one than this one. This one works, but there's a little bit more intuitive one. And then the second, you also have to explain the link between what you just proposed and this one.
Okay. I mean, the link between those two would essentially be: do we really need to hash everything?
Yep.
At each step, we would just keep track of an array of pointers to the letters, the corresponding letters.
That's jumping. Let me explain. Let me explain something to you. So, You're right. The inefficiency is that I'm continually have to hash the first character. But
Mm-hmm.
how can I avoid hashing? I just need to look at that character, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a data structure that would help me only have to look at characters one piece at a time would be a try.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So why don't I just populate the array with a try, and then, populate a try with all the words in the array, and then iterate through the try using the long string. And if I reach an end of a word, then I have reached a substring. Doesn't that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. How would we generalize it? Try reversing for subsequences though.
Well, the thing is that remember that earlier idea of hey, the subsequence here. If there
Yeah.
is a word or letter at a node that I don't recognize, I just skip it and keep going.
Okay.
So let's say let's say my try looks like I'm popular with A B, A B E. So then my try would look something like A, and then I would have B, and then let's say actually
Yeah.
also let's say I have AX or no AY. So then AY here, and then I will also have B here, and then C, something like this, right?
Yeah.
And then I have AX bet or something like that. So root, I see A, right? So I have to go down A. X, I don't recognize it, keep going. B. Hit B. Oh, B is the end of a word, there you go.
Okay, yeah, that makes
All I literally did was take your thing, just acknowledge that the hash map implementation and that particular step was inefficient, and just tried to eliminate it by looking at what really mattered in there. Oh, the only thing I really want to look at is the letter. That's reminiscent of a try.
I guess this is where the stating objective helps. Like, okay, we need to prune, we need to prune our non-good solution pathways, and we can utilize that by using a try.
Not even that. All I did was like take exactly what you did here with the map, and then just said, "Hey, yeah, let's and it's subsequence." I just combined that. All I did is like take away all the additional shit that we didn't need.
Okay.
So it's being able to understand what is important, what is not. That's why I say what is inefficient is not important, and what is not important you can get rid of.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Try to cut out the fat.
Yeah, just cut out the fat. That's it. And just focus on what's important. And if you focus on what's important, then it'll automatically fix your talking thing, because you won't be full of shit. You won't have to go chase after random details that don't fucking matter. So you need to always ask yourself, what's important here? What are the things I need to focus on? What are the things that are gonna screw me? You know,
Okay,
I didn't think the is subsequence. I did not think the is subsequence is gonna screw me, because all the entire what's important here is really just being able to iterate through every single candidate and set and optimize this part, right? All I did was just call back to the is subsequence thing that I proposed earlier, and just kind of massaged it a little bit.
Yeah, so you realized that we couldn't really optimize the is subsequence part too much, so then we tried to optimize iterating through the word list instead.
I mean, I'm not even really that cogent about where I'm aiming. I'm just looking directly at what's the easiest thing for me to optimize over. And if you followed like what we just did, it's just, hey, yeah, like instead of like trying every single possible word and sequence, word to sequence,
Yeah.
I said, why don't we just be more efficient about trying to try all of them at once? Or in your case, you just tried looking at the first letters on each one, and then the next letter on each one, and the next letter on each one. And I just said, hey, let's make this even simpler. Go to try.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
it.
yeah.
We're still within that realm of optimizing this part. Nothing fancy. All I did is like go for the lowest hanging fruit. These questions are not designed. These questions are very logical, easy to solve if you focus on what's important.
Yeah.
And notice even right there, did I lose you for a single second?
No. I mean, at one point, but that was my fault for misinterpreting your words.
That's fine. I mean, misinterpreting the words, that's also good. That's going to be me too, because the way I speak and talk about these things should leave very, very little room of losing the interviewer.
Okay,
So
yeah.
if I lost you there, that's on me. But even then,
I mean, the example cleared it up definitely, so that did help. Yeah.
Okay, it's just that one example. But yeah, no, you didn't lose me. That's the way you should be explaining these things. That's the way you're gonna be able to solve these problems and do the optimizations. I think that's probably why you're not getting a lot of the optimizations, is because you're not focusing on what is important here.
Okay, yeah. I need to focus. Okay, yeah. I need to. Let me write that down. Really
Yeah,
quick.
focus on what's
Just a
important,
sticky
and the way you figure out what's important is like, do I need to know about this, and is the interviewer going to be lost, or is the interviewer going to care if I talk about this or don't talk about this? What or
Okay.
another way to test it is, what is the easiest thing for me to misunderstand, or what is the thing I am going to easily fight someone else is going to fight me on.
Okay, yeah. So the most complex thing that might confuse people, let's try to optimize that into a way simpler, faster solution.
That's something like, yeah, that's like, hey, that's the most obvious one that the people are going to go for. It's like, huh, I don't understand this. Why the fuck are you doing this? That's going to be like probably important to explain at least, or come with a very simple solution to.
Okay, yeah.
So look for the huh, or anything that looks, yeah. I'm gonna say for now, look for the huh,
Okay, look for the
and then yeah. So it's like anything that's complex, anything that looks like it's going everywhere. I don't understand where it comes from.
Okay, yeah.
If you can hear like that little huh from someone in the crowd, that probably means there's something that you lost them on. There's something that is important that you just missed out on. So, okay. Anyway, enough of that. I think I understand where your problem is. So what I want to do is to give you a question, but I want you to really focus on explaining it properly. Don't focus on over-explain. Here's the parameter of the challenge. 1, don't over-explain. Just shut the fuck up if you feel like you're gonna do that.
Okay, yeah.
2, and if I'm going to pause you at random points. I want you to try and figure out what the interviewer is going to say. In other words, the interviewer can only do 3 things, right? Encourage you to continue, challenge you, clarify. I mean, there's a bunch of other things that he can do, but basically that's basically what's going to happen. You identified, and then you figure out what exactly the question he's going to ask.
Okay.
That's
yeah, and then those specific challenge you and clarify and encourage.
I'm going to pause you there. I'm going to say, what do you think I'm going to ask you?
Okay.
Okay. Basically, just focus on these 2 things. Keep the spreadsheet open. Let's do a problem.
All right.
But more importantly, you need to catch yourself on this.
Catch yourself on the yeah. I think what I'm probably gonna do for now is I'll probably just write out what I'm about to say first, and then iterate upon that before actually saying something. But
Okay.
I'll see if I can catch myself in the moment for that.
Alright. Damn it! I need to buy a Stream Deck. God damn it! You know, I have a better idea. I have an alternative to this. I need to do that like bitch slap sound emoji.
How can you get the emoji across on?
And I'm gonna play it through I would have played it through the mic.
Okay.
I need to actually have that. I realized. All right. Well, if we pass the interview, I'm gonna take a fee I would have taken and then just put it to a sound deck where I can bitch slap people.
Jeez. Yeah, that'd be funny.
All right. Let's
get like
see.
one of those.
Okay. Wait. Did I give you the block of text instead of string problem?
Yeah, I think you did. I think that was the last question we did.
Okay, that was the question we did. Let me do another one then. Okay, let's do a hard one.
Okay.
And it's gonna really require you to really clarify the problem. So, okay. All right, I'm gonna do it on your problem sheet. Give me a sec.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and remember, focus on what's important. Let me start the timer.
Okay.
Go. So, that's an optimal account balancing. You're given an array of transactions where the transaction I represents from person I to person I, and then amount, right? So it indicates that some person gave some amount of money to another person, and I want you to return the minimum number of transactions required to settle the debt. So let's do an example. Suppose I gave you this array of transactions, right? This just means that person 0 gave person 1 $10. person 2 gave person 0 $5. And there are 2 transactions needed to settle this. One way is to settle the debt is person 1 pays person 0, and person 2 $5 each. Does it make sense?
Okay, so 2 transactions are needed. One way to settle that is person 1 pays person 0. Person 0. Okay, yeah. So there's 3 people considered in this scenario. So there's person 0, person 1, and person 2. And I'm guessing since person 0, it just has a 0 balance. And after we handle the first transaction, 0 gives person 1 $10, and person 2 also starts off with $0. And after the second iteration, the second transaction we handle, they give person 0 $5, and it ends up like this. The finalized state of everything after going through the transactions. And then, so the solution is, one way to settle the debt is person 1 pays person 0 and 2 $5 each. So,
Okay, okay, here's the first challenge. What do you think the interviewer is going to ask?
challenge. Let me go back to the list again.
No. After what you just said. What is
Clarify.
Okay, clarify? Why would I clarify?
Because I'm a bit confused on... Because it seems a bit confusing on what's actually happening. Like, where to go
I mean, you explained it. So if there is something that needs to be clarified, what do you think that would be? What's the thing what's the thing that was confusing?
Yeah. If person 1 gives person 0 and 2 $5 each, wouldn't person 0 end up with $5? And it ends up like this. So what like I'm guessing, like, how is the debt done? I mean, handled then. Settled. How's the debt settled?
I see. Okay. So let me tell you something from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
Basically, what I saw was you were trying to walk through the problem, but then there's an immediate, question here. So you are trying. You're in the stage where you're still trying to understand the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what it is. So I would have the reason I would have done it as a challenge, but that's because from the outside looking in, it looked like you were understanding the problem. But all right. Anyway, I'll explain this one later. So keep going.
Okay. So yeah. So I'm a little bit confused on how the debt is settled here, because from my understanding, debt settled is everyone has a balance of 0, essentially.
Okay.
Because they all start with 0. Person 0 and person 1, person 2 start with 0, and then we handle the transactions.
Well, it doesn't matter how much money's in their wallet, right? Like each person can have $1 million. They just owe each other money.
Yeah. I mean, just 0 is just a starting point, but it could be any
Okay.
number. It's just the original number.
Okay.
So let me go through it again. So person 1, if we start at some random number 0, we handle transaction 1. So person 1 has $10 now, and so from that, person 1 owes person 0 $10. $10. Okay, yeah. And then now we go to the second question, the second transaction. So person 2 gave person 0 $5. So now person 0 owes person 2 $5. So I guess I can see it a little bit now. Now that if person 1 gives person 0 $10, he's left with 0. And then person 0 now has $15. And since person 2 gives $5, person 0 now gives person 2 $5. So he ends up with 2 5.
Okay.
And now all the debt is settled. Now all the debt is settled because all their debts, the $15 total, is done. It's settled. Yeah, all the debt is paid essentially, but now they have an increase of dollars, which was my confusing point essentially. They start at 0,
Okay.
but I forgot to add that they are.
All right. Now,
They're,
okay, I understand now. Let's put a pause. Interviewer, what
Yeah.
do you think interviewer's gonna say?
Okay, I guess encouraged to continue or clarify at these 2 stages. Because continue, encourage to continue because it looks like I'm getting somewhere, but also clarify because it might help me understand something a bit better.
So what do you think is missing here, and what do you think the interviewer is asking you for?
I think what's missing is, okay, if we start with $0 and then we essentially just adding money out of nowhere, wouldn't that cause for some confusion?
Okay, that's pretty close. What I was gonna say is, does the starting balance even matter? I already
Yeah.
said it before, and I said it again, and now I'm saying it again. Does the starting balance really matter of each person?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, yeah. It's
So-
just, in this case, I can just do it as a +10, +5, starting math. The 0 was just to make the example a bit simpler.
Sure, but here let's take the context of what just happened. You're 4 minutes in the interview. I already said it like 2 minutes ago that each person can start off with $1 million. It doesn't matter, and you're still back here with the balance. What does that look like to you?
I'm not following the interviewer suggestions.
You kind of just shot on my hint.
Yeah.
If you could at least arrive at, oh yeah, you're right, like you said this before, and this the initial balances, then like, okay, fine, it took you a little while to catch up, fine. But what it looks like right now is like you just kind of ignore me. So in other words, I would have challenged you like, okay, why does this matter?
Okay.
Why are you ignoring my statement? Which means that you must be doing it for a reason, which means it must be challenged.
Okay.
So now that that's what you should have anticipated.
Okay, yeah, the challenge since... Okay, you gave me a hint.
And you threw it away, and so I'm going to challenge you, like, why did you do that? What does this tell you that I didn't, that I missed out on? So you see where that can be a problem.
Yeah.
All right. So let's say I did that. Now what?
Okay, so you challenged me. I'm like, okay. Then I just say, okay. At that point, I was thinking that I recognize that the starting balance doesn't matter, but as a starting point, as an origin of their starting balances, I would just say 0 is an easier number to start off with rather than $1 million. Or I could just track the difference.
Wait, shit. Hold up. I need to do this. Wait. Give me a second.
Okay. The bitch slap.
You hear that?
No.
God damn it. You heard that?
Okay, yeah, I heard that.
Good. What just happened there?
I got a little bit too confusing. And I wasn't explaining your challenge. After you challenged me, I wasn't explaining it properly enough.
No, yeah, you didn't even explain what the fuck you were doing. It's like, so this is, you don't over-explain, just shut the fuck up, you feel like you're doing that.
Okay.
If I zoned out there, are we in the same spot?
Yeah.
There you go, you're full of that's the moment you're full of shit.
The 10-second segment. Okay.
Alright, so take a moment and figure out what the fuck you want to say. You talk way too fucking much and say too fucking little.
Okay.
You know, I'm gonna get some water, think about it. I'll be right back.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So, talk to me.
Okay. So, from the understanding I gotten since you last left,
Mm-hmm.
I was essentially thinking, okay, so let's calculate all the total debt needed. That's just 15. That's just 15. You said the starting balance doesn't matter. A confusing point for me was that in real life, at least, you usually don't start from $0. You start from some certain amount, and then when you have a debt, as in you pay someone else money, you lose your own money and you give it to someone else.
Okay,
But
so...
let's abandon the starting point notion for a bit. I
you hearing
mean,
this?
yeah, I hear that. Yeah. Okay, so essentially, we go through each transaction, we get the opposite of that. So, person zero gives zero. Person zero gives person one $10. That means person one owes person zero $10.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We do that for every single transaction that we get. And for the example input, we get person zero owes person two, and person one owes person zero. And then after that,
Okay,
we
so
would
then,
just
pause. What do you
Yeah.
think the interviewer is going to ask now? What do you think, what, interviewer has 3 things, what is he going to do right now?
Okay, clarify or encourage or challenge. Clarify?
Okay, what is he going to clarify?
He's gonna clarify where am I going with this.
More specific, it's that's not really. Think about
Yeah.
what you just said. You said you're going to have person 1 owe person 0 this, person 0 is person 2 this.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the next logical question is?
What are we gonna do with this information? Now that we know who
What is the
owes
most
who.
obvious? What's the most obvious? What's the most obvious one? I mean, you would argue that keeping track of who owes who money is pretty important. That's not the What's the
Yeah.
here? What is the
Okay. Yeah. So keeping track of who owes who is important. So where's the in that situation is the amount is also pretty important too. So one way to set up that person. How do we get that?
How do we represent it?
Yeah, how do we represent it? So
yeah,
then,
okay, so stop there. Why didn't you think that? Now the question is, if I had to give it to you, the question now becomes, why did I have to tell you that? That should have been that should have been obvious within like 20 seconds. The question is, why did I have to tell you that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought and initially I thought, okay, let's just represent it as a graph, but I wanted to like try and logically.
Here's the thing, don't, you're jumping. This is what I mean by jumping. Yeah. You want to be logical about this.
Yeah. So I didn't say it right away, so I tried to come up with a logical relationship or something to actually justify why I could choose graph.
Mm-hmm. Because okay, let's say you jump straight to graph. Then I would say, why did you pick a graph?
Yeah.
That's the All right.
Yeah. So how would I represent this?
All right. So yeah, how would you represent this? So you're gonna say you're gonna represent this as how you gonna represent it?
So my idea for representing it, this is a graph.
Okay.
Because then we have relationships between who owes who, and how much they owe would be just an edge in our graph.
Yeah, that could have easily been done in the first 5 seconds, actually.
Okay.
That's literally a 1-minute explanation, right there. I have all these transactions. I need to know who owes who money. I can just represent this as a graph where the edge represents debt. How long did it take me to explain that?
Long time, probably 5 minutes. I guess
it takes you 5 minutes to do that, and it takes me 10 seconds. How is that possible?
I should have probably started off with it. It's just I didn't know how to I could say I can do this, but I was trying to come up with a way I can not naturally, but like just get to it. Justify my solution for choosing graph.
The thing is, what is important here? What is important?
the details.
Not right.
No.
Not necessarily at this point in the interview.
No.
Let's take the first 5 minutes. What's the important thing?
Keeping track of who owes who and how much.
I mean, that's the detail. I would argue more is you were trying to focus on, oh yeah, I need to like come up with that logical solution that I was talking about. But you know, like I would say, just trying to solve the problem is probably more important. You're focusing on trying to invent a fancy way of deriving an answer that was very easily explained in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So the important thing here is like being able to get to a solution.
Okay. Yeah. Get to the solution.
Get to a solution. It's a naive solution. I don't care how you get there as long as it's easy for me to understand. The naive to optimal thing is really just a template to help people like not fucking jump through steps. But you notice, like there, I didn't have to jump through anything. I just said, hey, these people owe each other money. I need to keep track of who owes that person money back. Let me represent that as a graph. And then it'd be a directed graph because, you know, like direction of like who owes person money or whatever. You see how that logical progression happened?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
So the important thing is is getting to a solution and the logic behind it. So you had to invent the logic, which is very very weird.
Yeah.
And you're focusing on the wrong thing, right there.
Okay.
All right, keep going. Now that I gave you that piece, but this is something I would recommend you rewatch the stream, watch this portion, and just look at yourself and try to figure out how you can do this better. All right, keep going.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, you know, we decided we're gonna represent it as a graph. So let's put an example of how we represent it as a graph. So, you know, each person is a node. The debt is a graph. I mean, the edge are a graph. The edge are the debt.
I can't believe it took you 3 times to do that. What the fuck?
Yeah, I got. It's a bit of a tongue twister, I guess, for me at least.
You gotta figure this out, bro. All right, go.
You know, person 0 owes person 2 debts, so it would be $5 over here. 1 is 0, $10, where XY is X is the person and Y is the debt amount.
Okay, sure.
So yeah.
Okay, pause here. What do you think is okay? What do you think is happening? Why do you think I paused you? I want you to catch yourself on this. Something here is wrong.
I was kind of wasting time with trying to fix my spelling mistake.
No. What in this current state? What do you think the interviewer would say? Or actually, no. That one, like, it's not so much the interviewer would say, but there's something that's a little funny here. What do you think that funny thing is?
How do we get this?
Person 5-year-old walking into the room.
Yeah.
To throw the test. What do you think they're gonna say?
How are we getting this graph representation?
No. You already gave me the key here, right?
Yeah. I should probably specify that the nodes are the people.
What person?
The person as in the from and to sections of our array.
More specifically, the person.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean shit. It's like, is this person owed the debt, or does this person owe me money? That seems pretty obvious. That seems pretty fucking. Don't tell me anything. That seems pretty fucking obvious if I throw a 5-year-old into the room, and if they don't know what's going on. They see this shit. They're like, who is the person?
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
I don't know. No. If you, the fact that you threw a 5-year-old in the room and they didn't see this. My question is, what do you think a 5-year-old knows like what the person means in this context?
Yeah, I think I didn't dive too deeper into it.
No. You don't do it too deep. It's very simple. Remember, surface level understanding. After the detail, we can iron out the details later, but it's always to get the idea down. Remember, focus on what's important, and what's important is being able to understand what the fuck is going on here. Remember, always ask yourself what's important.
Okay. Yeah. What's important?
So yeah, fix that shit. Go.
Okay. The person that is owed money. The person that is owed money, and the Y is the debt.
Okay. Fair.
So in this case, if we copy paste it, it would be person. This relates to that. This relates to that.
Okay, fine, whatever.
And then if once we represent it as a graph, let's just for more clarification. No. Now how will we get the debt settled? The minimum number of transactions required to settle the debt. So let's first figure out how we can settle the debt first. Method of settling the debt, and then we can try and find the minimum number after that.
Okay.
So required to settle the debt. How do we settle the debt here? So we see that there's a debt of total $15. How do we make it so that the one way to settle the debt is person 1 pays $0 and person 1 pays person 0 and 2 $5 each. So it's associative, community, I don't know the proper word, but what I'm trying to say is,
take a pause.
If
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard that.
So, really think about what you're trying to say here, and say it in 15 seconds.
Yeah. Okay, so if person B owes person A debt, and person C owes person B debt, then person C also owes person A money.
Okay, fair.
So if we represent this, then
well, kind of. It depends on the amounts, right?
Yeah, the amount too. So that's just like a path in a graph, right? So we have person 0. So if we go through, represent this as a graph, it would essentially be person 2 has an edge to person 5. For simplicity's sake, we'll just remove the numbers. So person 0, there. And 1 owes person 2. Okay, this might be a bit simpler to represent it. Person 1, wrong. Okay, so it's like that. The minimum number of transactions. So since the starting balances don't matter, we can assume that everyone has sufficient enough money to pay off all their debts. Is that correct?
Sure. You're gonna assume that everyone has access to $1 million that they could use.
Yeah.
Or whatever fucking amount. Doesn't really matter.
Whatever matter. Yeah. So essentially, we see that the graph essentially looks like this. 1, 0, 2. So since we don't really need the amounts settled, we don't care too much about the amount of money being transferred. So 5. No, this is 5. This is 10. We can just go through we can traverse through the graph and just see how many levels there are to the graph from our source node. But to find out from our source node. So 1 is a source node here, is the source node, which means it has no incoming edges. So we find someone without any debt. No incoming edges.
Do you hear that?
But yeah, no, well, yeah, now I hear it.
Okay. So why do you think I slapped you there?
A little bit of a challenge. What happens if we have a cycle? Like person 0 owes person 2, and person 2 owes person 1, and person 1 owes person 0?
Not really. No. The reason I slap you is because basically it's full of shit. I slap you when you're full of shit, right? So
Yeah.
this is full of shit. The question, what? Remember, what is important here?
Solving the problem.
Okay,
Getting
does
a
it get you
solution.
closer to solving the problem?
Am I solving the problem?
Are you solving the problem? Does what you did in the past 2-3 minutes get you any closer?
Other than helping me explain the problem a little bit clearer, not too much, and coming towards
So
with
you're
the
still
solution.
spending 10 minutes understanding the problem. That's basically what you just said.
Yeah, I guess. Not I guess, but yeah.
Okay, that's very problematic. Because it seems like you're just messing around with graphs at this point. You're not even really trying to solve the problem. Like I don't know what exactly is the misunderstanding here. You understand that you're just trying to solve. You're trying to settle the debts, right? Do you understand the problem? Let's figure this one out. So, do you understand what the problem is asking? First of all,
We need to output the minimum number of transactions required to settle the debt.
yes.
So
Do you understand? Do you understand that part?
yeah,
Okay, so it's not about understanding the problem. You already understand like what is being asked of you.
yeah,
So what you're
Okay.
really talking about is trying to come up with a solution.
yeah.
Okay. So then, obviously, what's next? What's the most naive way of solving this problem?
So required minimum. When I hear return the minimum number of transactions required, and then since we're representing it as a graph, we could essentially try like a breadth first search sort of traversal. But at the same time, we need to settle everyone's
Let's
debt.
play.
Yeah,
Let's play with that. You say you want to use a breadth first search, right?
yeah.
How does breadth first search get you to your solution? Give me an example.
So we have the minimum number of transactions. So the shortest path, essentially, in an unweighted graph, and we can. I think from what I can assume, we can ignore the numbers since we can assume everyone has enough money to pay off the debt.
Okay.
So we go from what we start at a node with no incoming edges, so we have one over here. We go do a breadth first search. We see one traversal, one iteration of a breadth first search over here that settles that guy's debt, and then another one over here which settles the second good person's debt.
Okay.
And so that's 2 iterations, and it says that we have our output of 2 over here.
Okay.
No, it does seem a bit confusing because for me, it doesn't sound that logical to me yet.
Yeah. How do we know this works?
The details.
The interviewer is going to ask you how do we know this works? Where's this breadth first search? Yeah, to get you the shortest path, but you're throwing out the weights.
Yeah.
So my question is, how do we know this even works?
Yeah. I mean, so from my assumption, the weights.
And more importantly, is there a way I can break this myself?
Yeah. Okay, let's get to the breaking part.
Are you sure this idea even works? Where's that? And most importantly, where's this idea coming from? Do you remember what I said about magic bullets?
Yeah. The minimum, the breadth first search came from minimum number.
Okay, fine. I understand where that comes from, but then it's like that's the source idea, but then you're just randomly applying it. Okay, you're just ballparking ideas. In other words, you should have just said, "Let me try breadth first search because X, Y, Z."
Yeah. Okay. Let me try breadth first search because we see minimum number of transactions required.
So in other words, when you look back on the stream, you really want to understand where the confusion comes from. You really basically. I don't see you trying to solve the problem, but once you actually walk through it step by step, like, oh, that's where the idea comes from. Now that means that in the future you got to let the interviewer know because of this property of breadth first search. I think we can do this, and give it a try.
And give it a what?
Give it a try. Just say, hey, I think this might cause some confusion because I'm not clear where the solution is leading, but let me try this one because X, Y, Z. That's fine. That's the only. That's the difference between you losing the interviewer and not.
Okay. Yeah.
No.
So,
okay. Just like this is actually what's needed. Otherwise, you're gonna fucking lose me again. Understand where you're headed. Understand why you're doing what you're doing.
Okay. All right. So let me take a moment to think exactly where the end goal with this breadth first search is then.
Yeah. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it works, it works.
So 1, 0 to 2. Okay. So I use breadth first search because we return the minimum number of transactions required to settle the debt. I asked myself, do the weights matter? Assuming that everyone can pay off their debt no matter whatever money they have. I imagine they have infinite amount of money. They can pay off their debts no matter if we don't. Okay, they can pay off their debts even if the person that owes them money doesn't pay them at all.
Okay. Why is that
So,
important? Why is that important?
So that means we can use breadth first search because the weights do not matter, the
Okay.
path values, or else if the money does matter, the money amount matters, like the starting point, then we would use something maybe like Dijkstra for weighted paths, weighted graphs. But since the weights seem like they don't matter as of this moment,
Okay.
then we can just use breadth first search.
What do you think the interviewer is gonna say?
What if the weights do matter?
What? Yeah. Under what conditions do the weights matter? Or I'll probably just throw an example of why.
Yeah. The weights. So the weights would matter if everyone starts off with a certain amount of money and they can't go below a certain threshold.
What do you mean starting with a certain amount of money?
So if they start off with if every person starts off with $100.
But we just established that it doesn't matter what the amount they start off with.
Yeah. That's why I say the weights don't matter.
But I'm saying
if they did have a starting amount, then the weights would matter.
All right, I need to slap you a few times for that.
Let me read.
Why? What? Stop! Like, just slow the fuck down. So you're saying, do the initial balances matter or not matter? First of all, let's establish that.
The initial balances don't matter.
So then why the fuck are you talking about them? If they don't matter, why the fuck are you talking about them?
Because it was like, it leads me to the conclusion of, do the weights matter if the starting balances don't matter?
And so your answer is no, that the weights don't matter? And I'm asking you,
the weights,
and
in this
okay,
instance,
and literally I asked you,
matter.
under what conditions do the weights matter? And then you're going back to that, and I'm saying, no, that's the wrong way to think about it. You shouldn't be, that it shouldn't matter. So I'm saying, so you're, okay, let's clarify. You are saying the weights do not matter.
Yeah.
When do weights matter? And then you go back to the fucking, what's called, the starting balance. And I'm saying the starting balance is irrelevant to this entire problem. In fact, you know what, let me just jump straight to the point. What happens if this becomes a 10?
It doesn't really change anything in the solution that I'm thinking of anyways, the breadth first search one.
Well, it doesn't even change anything because all that's left in this transaction is that you pay back, there's only one transaction, right? If it's 0, 1, 2, then just fucking have 2 pay 1. And there you go. So you don't need to do breadth first search. Breadth first search would fail. My point here is you're overcomplicating it and you're focusing on the wrong things and it basically makes you full of shit.
Okay.
I didn't have to go abstract like, oh, the properties of the fucking graph. All I did was throw one simple example at you as to why the weights do matter.
Wait, so if you put 10 here instead of 5.
Person 1 paid person 0 $10. Person 0 paid person 2 $10. You can resolve the debt by having person 2 pay person 1 $10. And it's all gravy. Why is there a breadth first search needed to get me to an answer of 2 instead of 1?
Okay. Yeah.
All I did was throw a simple example of changing the numbers at you, and the entire idea fell apart. I didn't need to have some crazy explanation. Again, what is it that is important? Well, you come up with a solution. Does the solution actually work?
Yeah.
In other words, you're focusing on the wrong thing. Again, it's the same thing. Ask yourself, really make sure, like, what is important here?
The important one is settling the debt in the minimum number of transactions.
Which is solving the problem, right? So now that you've solved it, come up with a solution, the first instinct you should have is, does this really work?
Yeah.
That's what I mean by what's the most important thing?
Okay, so I come up with some sort of solution. I test it first, and then I can go more into why I make the certain assumptions of why it works.
Yeah, figure out. I mean, yeah, that's one way to do it. But most importantly, and what I want you to focus on is you came up with a solution. You invented it out of thin air, and you said because of because the property of Bradford search. But and all I did was throw an example. Like, does it really work? I'm not even thinking
Yeah.
beyond that right now. I don't even know why. If it works, I would. I don't know why. All I'm saying is, hey, let's really make sure that these things work. This is where
Okay.
testing comes in, right? What's important?
Yeah. Okay. So we ruled out that breadth first search is a valid solution.
Okay, yeah, back to the drawing board. What's the most important thing? What's the most important thing right now?
Solving the problem?
Yeah, solving the problem. Come with another solution. There you go.
Yeah, so come up with a solution. Okay. So if we have this, the output would be 1 because we can just do person 1 gives person 2 $10. And this is our original example. So how would we come up with a solution here? We can somehow split it between split the amount owed from one node across all other nodes.
Why does that get us closer to the solution?
Because so the person 1 can pay multiple people at the same time instead
Okay.
of paying one person's debt and then that person paying their own debt.
What the fuck
So
is
you
that?
skip-
What do you mean
you
paying
skip
their own
someone.
debt? What the fuck does that mean?
So person 0. So for example, person 0 owes person 2 $5, right? And person 0 is owed $10. So why not the person who owes person 0 $10 just pay off all his person 0's debts by himself?
But I gave you the 2 transactions, right?
Yeah. So that's why the transactions are. So person 1 pays off person 0 debts, and because person 0 has 1 debt, he pays 2 transactions total. He pays off person 0's debt and pays off person 0 his money.
I don't. Did you understand what you were talking about?
No, I think
There you go.
for the example, it would be better.
Okay,
but...
fine. Do an example.
Okay, so you see this example. Person 1, person 0 is owed $10, and person 2 is owed $5, right? And person 1 owes person 0 $10. So why not person 1 just split his money between all the edges that person 0 has, all the people that person 0 owes debt to. So in this case, it would be person 2. So why not person 1 pays off his debt pays off the debt that person 0 owes. So person 1 pays all of person 0's debt, then pays person 0 the amount owed. So in this case,
okay.
Since person 2 is owed $5 and person 2 is owed person 2 is owed person 0 money, I guess it's a little bit simpler to say as person 1 pays all his person 0's debt. Person 0 has person 2 as one of their debt collectors. So person 1 pays person 2 the money owed by person 0, and the remaining debt left we can subtract, and we can subtract this $5 from person 0's debt. So basically person 1 now owes person 0 $5, and then we do person 0 person 1 gives person 0 $5.
This seems really, really complicated.
Yeah, I think it's more of we go deepest. We go all the way to the deepest person first. We pay off all the people that person 0 owes, and if person 0's debt people need any money from.
Okay. Let's put a pause here.
Yeah.
I think this is exactly what happened during your second interview. Think
Okay.
about everything that just happened right now.
Yeah.
Everything that you said, everything did. What do you think the interviewer is thinking right now?
What is this guy doing? He's going in circles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gave up on you like 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Like it's like I have no idea where you're going. I'm just gonna let you do whatever the fuck you want. Because basically you're pissed off the interviewer by not being logical. You talked way too much, didn't go anywhere. Let me ask you, the full shit test. If I zoned out for the past 10 minutes, would I have lost anything?
Nothing that you couldn't glean from the board.
Not even like I didn't even need to look at the board. Like let's say like you didn't write this down. Let's say like this wasn't written down.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have lost any knowledge?
Other than a candidate solution, nothing much.
It's not even a solution. It doesn't even work.
Yeah, I mean, I was just fleshing out the details of.
Are you sure that's really details? What's the most important thing?
I mean, the most important thing is just this, but not generalized.
No. The most important thing is
Isn't
solving
it?
the fucking problem. Coming up with a solution,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
So and you notice you did the same exact mistake again. What's the objective? The objective is coming up with a solution, and you're saying the most important thing right now is this little detail. You don't even have a solution that works.
Yeah.
Does the solution work?
I'm not sure if it requires the minimum number of transactions, but it was a way of coming up.
It's a simple yes or no question. Does the solution work? Can the solution work even?
Haven't tested it out just yet. Too much. Only on one test case, so I'm not sure if it works.
So it doesn't work basically.
Okay.
It's a very simple thing. Like if the solution should work, or like you should be very, very quick to being able to do each and every single step. And the fact is that you spent 10 minutes on it and you didn't get anywhere, which probably means it doesn't work. Like
Okay,
in fact,
yeah.
okay, so you're saying person 0 owes person $10, person 1 owes person 0 $10, person 1 pays all person 0's debt, then person 0 the amount owed, person 1 pays person 2 $5, person 1 now gives person 0 $5, person 1 gives person 0 $5. What's the algorithm here?
I was thinking something of a depth first search, as in we go to a neighbor, we pay off all the neighbor's debts. After all the neighbor's debts is owed, we can pay the current guy we owe.
Is this a magic bullet solution or not?
I don't think it's a magic bullet. I was
Really?
coming up with.
Where's the logic behind it? Just random person. Okay, so first of all, where's this idea of one person pays their immediate neighbor's debt, all of it, come from? Why does it have to be all of it first?
The example given is one way to settle the debt is person 1 pays person 0 and person number 2 $5 each.
Okay, but
So,
then
and
you
per-
just said person O.
zero.
You just say all person 8, person 0's debt, and then person 0. So does it mean you're giving this person $5 or $10?
You're giving him $5 in the end.
So how
Person
do you
1
determine-
gives
how do you
person 0
determine that?
$5 in the end.
How do you
Because
determine
we
that?
subtract from all the neighbor's debts he has.
Okay, so let's say
So-
like 0 has like an additional like let's say 3 here, right? And they owes it to
Yeah.
person 3. In other words, you're gonna give person 0 $10 minus 8, so $2.
Yeah. Oh wait. So hold on. So person 5 8. Yeah. We would give person 0 $2 then in this instance.
Okay.
Because 5 plus 3 is 8, and 10 minus 8 is 2. And since we paid off all of 0's debts, we only owe person 0 $2 now.
Okay, so you owe person 0 $2. Fine. Let's take care. That's okay. So then, what about the rest of this? Complete the loop. 3 needs to receive some money, right?
Yeah.
So
We person one pays person three his $3, and that's why we subtract it from here. So then it becomes 7,
Okay.
and then once we pay off person two's debts, we get rid of that. That becomes 5, 0, and then 7 minus 5 is 2. So now person one owes person zero's debt $2.
Okay. Okay, I mean, this is something that could or couldn't work, but my point is that you spent 10 minutes talking about all this fucking shit when you literally could have just done this.
Yeah, the example would probably speed everything up.
Yeah, so in other words, you're like fucking meandering, doing all this bullshit. I'm gonna say that if you couldn't explain this in like 15 seconds, then this means you had no idea what the fuck you were doing. Which one's clearer, this one or this one?
Probably this. This example is a lot clearer, and if they want a more detailed transaction of what happens at each step, then this is what goes on.
Do I care? Remember, we're trying to. What's the most important thing right now?
Coming out with a solution, so only
So
the
does this help
example
me
is
understand
needed.
the solution that you've written?
Huh?
Would you say this adds to the understanding of the solution, or does it take away from it?
It probably takes away from it because they have to read this additional text.
It's like so fucking much, dude. That's my point.
Yeah.
If the objective here is coming up with a solution, this obfuscates it. This goes against the objective. But doing this easily explains it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
this is what I'm talking about, like being full of shit. This doesn't help me. If it doesn't get you to your objective, it doesn't fucking matter.
Okay, yeah.
Like, this is
I guess
not
you're
I'm saying this is not necessarily the wrong solution, but it's a magic bullet solution. I don't know if it works or not.
Yeah. So then now we go with trying out the example.
Try it out another example. Make sure it works.
So, what happens if person 1 owes person $5, but person 0 owes to $10? Then we'd kind of get messed up over here, because then if person 1 pays person 2 $10, it will go to this. It will go to this, and then person 0 now owes person 1 now owes person 0 negative $5. That doesn't make a little bit of sense.
Yeah, the flow gets flipped around. So in other words, you spent 15 minutes on an idea that didn't even work. Remember the magic bullet issue that we had before? This is the magic bullet issue all over again.
Okay. I thought I came up with it a bit logically, but buggy, I guess.
It's not even logical. It's a magic. Do you understand the difference between magic bullet and logic?
I can derive it. Logical solutions you can derive.
You can derive that from some course like fact that is provable and easily provable. But this one you just invented out of thin air. It's tautological. It's like, why does this even work to begin with? Why does one person paying 0 debt and all the debt that they owe even work to begin with? Why does that work?
Okay, yeah.
In other words, that's what we call bullshit. It's magic bullet. So for the last 12 minutes, I'm going to basically tell you how to walk through the problem, and you're going to basically, and hopefully you can learn something from this. So.
Okay.
The first things first. Yes, we need to figure out like the minimum number of transactions needed. But if I look at here, I would start it off with the naive solution. Okay, let's just reverse all the transactions. That would get me to a solution, but it wouldn't give me the minimum number, right?
Mm-hmm.
Next thing I'm thinking of, okay, well, it doesn't. Based on this example and explanation, it doesn't matter who is paying who. It literally doesn't matter. As long as I get my money back, I don't care, right? So which means that the way I would represent it is that person 0, 1, and 2. Person 0 is owed $5. Person 1 is owed $5, something like that. And then, in other words, which means person 2 must owe $10 to other people, or something like that, right? So I'm just throwing out a random example. Based on what I've just seen here, I know that in a lot of cases, or almost every single case, it doesn't matter who's paying who. What matters is that each person gets their debt resolved. So in other words, I basically end up with a relationship table that looks something like this. And then from there on, I'm going to just try every single possible combination of debtors to collectors.
Okay, yeah.
And even
Person
when
2
he-
is negative 10 because. So why is person 2 negative 10 again?
So it just means that, hey, person 0 is owed $5, person 1 is owed $5, and person 2 owes other people a total of $10.
Okay.
So basically, all I do is just take this fact and use that. But let's say I went down your graph route, right? Let's say I represent every single transaction as a graph, as an actual graph, and then so let's have like 0 owes 0, 1, and then 2, and let's say I did that, right? Then I would say, okay, so how do I rewind all the transactions? So let's say I give person 1 $10, right?
Mm-hmm.
As I resolve that transaction, now person 1 can spend that $10 and then distribute it between 2. It's basically your idea, right?
Yeah.
But the thing, and then I just follow the path and then resolve it, or something like that. But then I would try, okay, what happens if there is a cycle?
Yeah, then it becomes.
Okay. So then so this means that, okay, now that I see this, I see, oh, there's a net inflow and there's a net outflow. Person 1 doesn't really care about distributing it based on this one fact again. Person 1 doesn't really care about who they gives exactly the money to. It's just the net amount that he's owed. Because if technically he gets like $5 in and $5 out, he doesn't need to do shit.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
So that's basically what I'm going to do here. Like, in order to resolve the cycle, well, let me just look at the total net flow. Or just take or in this case, is taking your idea to its logical conclusion. I don't care about what goes in and out if the numbers are the same.
Yeah.
So it's arrive at the exact. So then now it's like, okay, I arrive back at the exact same solution that I said before. It's a very simple logic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if it's just that, the only difference is I just killed the ideas that didn't work very quickly. And I just explained I just had to say, okay, this is why it works, this is why it doesn't. I didn't even need that complicated examples. I didn't even need to do like whatever fucking bullshit you did. And if I guarantee you, if you slept through any part of that explanation, you probably lost a lot of knowledge. So.
Yeah.
So this is what I mean. Like, always focus on what's important. And I just kept seeing you repeatedly fail at doing that. You just kept digging into the details, but then at the end, it's just like, well, does the detail matter if the solution doesn't even work?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And this is probably, again, that's probably why you failed the interviews, because you just kept rambling around random shit and didn't have any direction of where you're aiming. Imagine this is like an actual Google interview.
Yeah. I would have failed. I would have failed.
Yeah, you would fail. And so you have one. So in other words, let's talk about like what I want you to do. So I really want you to really think about like why you keep running into this trap. Really watch every single one of the coaching sessions that we did where I keep going over this over and over and over again with you. It's more about a little bit more about understanding yourself. It's not so much about problem solving anymore. It's about understanding why do you do the things you do.
Why do I keep rambling?
Why do you keep rambling? Why do you feel the need to talk? Why do you do this? I want you to really see your own behavior, really your own talk. So being able to record yourself and really get the outside perspective is super important. So first thing, why do you ramble so much and fight against what I say? You were doing it, and I think if you watch the replay, you will see it. Basically, you are full of shit. You're basically just saying random fucking things and basically fighting against what I'm talking about. And I know you're open to what I'm saying, and I know you do put in the work. So which means that there's a fundamental problem with like who you are. So really being able to understand yourself and why you feel the need to do that. Why do you feel the need to talk?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Should I try for practice anyways, like why ramble? Should I just like try rambling? I mean, should I try explaining a certain topic in general and see what fat I can cut out from?
Something like that. This part is I can't really help you understand yourself. That's probably like a deeper question. But I'm telling you what I see. And I'm going to give you like guidelines to help you, but at the end of the day, you need to understand why this is happening and troubleshoot it yourself. This part, like, it's like some spiritual shit, but like, I can't, this part, that's where like my limit is. I can only tell you what you're doing wrong with the engineering approach and how to fix it, but it's like, if it keeps happening, then there's something like fundamentally of your being that needs to be.
The psychology side, sort of.
Something like that. So, and I gotta tell you, focus on objective. What is logical? I'll call what do you need to accomplish, and because of what you need to accomplish, what is the next step? You know, so it's like it's one thing to say, hey, you came up with a solution, now let's flesh out the details, but that's wrong because, well, how do you even know the idea works?
Yeah.
Like, what can go wrong? Think of it this way: before you build on it, think about what can go wrong.
Yeah,
Go
I think
proof.
a problem that I was coming out with is, okay, I came up with a solution. Let's go into nitty gritty how I do it, and then check for bugs if it's actually right. I should probably
Yeah.
not do in that order. I would probably test it right away, and then hash out the details if it turns out to be a decent solution.
Yeah, exactly. And even remember, like the other thing, the when you wrote down the graph representation, and you
Yeah.
wrote x equals the person, and I said, hey, think about a 5-year-old, and you couldn't see it. Well, the question is, why couldn't you see it? I gave you the heuristic, right? And you still couldn't see it. So the question now is like, okay, did I give you the wrong heuristic? Did I like? But it's like a 5-year-old child. It's like, I'm trying to think what other heuristic I could give you to help you see that. But then it's also at some point you kind of need to ask yourself, why didn't you see it?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like you're gonna need to watch that moment and ask yourself, because I can't help you on that. I mean, I can try to come up with
Okay,
another way of thinking about it, but I thought the 5-year-old child one was pretty straightforward and obvious. But
Yeah, it is. I think it was just me taking in me imagining words that aren't there, sort of thing. I don't know.
so checklist. This is where
Yeah,
checklist comes in. You need to get it out on paper and show it to me next time.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. But that's basically it for me. Any questions?
No other questions off the top of my head.
Okay.
At the moment, everything seems good. I'm gonna rewatch the stream.
Mm-hmm. And then do some more. I would say do some more problems, but record yourself. Record yourself,
Okay.
and then try to improve or be efficient at explanations.
Yeah, and
Anything
then
you
try
do.
and cut out all the
No bullshit.
unnecessary rambling.
If you feel like
Yeah.
you could fall asleep and just do whatever the fuck, and the interviewer can like come back and not lose anything, you fucked up.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. Okay.
Alright. So then I'm gonna let you go.
All right.
Alright.
Thanks, Edward.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
nice.
You got 3
Being-
weeks or 2 weeks really. So
Yeah, 2 weeks. Essentially, apparently they're gonna give my interview time next week.
holy fuck.
Oh no! Like they're gonna tell me when my interview is next. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Hope. Yeah, you got 2 weeks, man. Make it count.
Yeah.
Alright. Talk to you later.
All right. Talk to you later. Cheers.
Alright. Well, that's it. But yeah. Let's see. I totally agree with Edward. He talks way too much. Yeah, he talks way too much and says too little. I mean, trying to work on that, because that way then he'll be able to think logically and rationally. I'm a savage interviewer, dude. I'm just telling you right now. I am basically just telling you what an interviewer actually is thinking when he's sitting in that chair and dealing with a candidate. That's it. I'm not giving away any fucking like secrets to it. I'm literally just representing an interviewer who is sitting in a room with this particular candidate for an interview. I'm telling you basically all the shit that that the companies won't tell you, you know, because legal reasons. You know, like I'm only saying what my opinion is, but I can guarantee you that a lot of interviewers would feel the same way. In fact, you guys felt the same way too. So this is the kind of feedback that if Amazon gave you, they would probably get their asses sued. You know, because it's like the feedback would be very, very fucking mean. You know, you can't exactly go around telling. You know, so anyway, seems like the viewership's dropping, so I'm gonna sign out for today. Thank you all for watching, and hopefully we'll have a another stream next week on Saturday. Actually, we'll also have a stream on Tuesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so we'll be there too. One suggestion: maybe he could have asked the interviewer for some help too. He could have, but a lot of it is about guiding the interview yourself. Asking for help is like, sure, I am lost. Asking for hints it's dangerous. Is that you should be able to come up with the solution yourself. Help occasionally is fine, but if you keep asking for help, then something's fucking wrong. So he needs to have the things that he should have had all the tools to be able to progress through the problem himself. So I'm gonna sign off. Thank you all for joining me. If y'all want to chat after this, Join me in the Discord. Links in the description down below. Keep up with my socials. I'll let you know when the next stream is on. Other than that, have a good afternoon. See y'all next time.